What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Forever Green Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, and alongside of me tonight, Nick, Franco, and of course, we welcome everybody into a live show. Franco, when's the last time we did a live show? It feels like it's been a while. Like most of it's been recorded as of late.
Draft?
It might have been the draft. I feel like, did we do one?
I think there was something in between that. I might be blanking on it.
I feel like there was, that might have been the last time. But the last time we were on here for quite a while. I mean, 2.5, 3 hours.
Oh, actually, no, Kawhi.
Oh, Kawhi. That's right. Was that after the draft? I think it was. I think that was after the draft. But something that was also after the draft is, you guys know us as basketball people, maybe football people out there, but we're going to talk about some UFC. Because this past weekend, Conor McGregor entered the ring once again as a man in his late 30s against Max Holloway. And, you know, folks, if you're, living in under a rock when it comes to this particular topic by now, I mean, just to give a quick update, Conor McGregor lasted about 45 seconds, and that was it. There was no blood. There was no bludgeoning on either side. We had a blown-out knee by Conor McGregor, of course, and that was the end of the fight. But, Franco, you saw the fight on Saturday, as did I. And I'm questioning, right? I'm not saying we're conspiracy theorists, but I'm questioning whether or not the injury, did it really occur in the ring or not?
Well, what a unique card in general. I mean, the fight before it, Paddy Pimblett ending the fight with a submission hold, and a fight that he walked in the underdog in, and being able to lock in a guillotine and hold that in for literally folded around the guy and it didn't allow a single chance at offense or defense to defend against it, and had that fight end in just under a minute. But the McGregor injury, I mean, you'd have to look into the reports from before he went into the ring, and also you saw that discomfort in his knees before he even stepped into the ring. He was looking uncomfortable before the match even began. When he was walking out, you could also notice that anytime they were panning to his locker room, it wasn't too much movement going on. But who knows? Maybe he was trying to hold off this injury, but this might have been something. Well, this had to have been something that happened before camp, or if it was something that just re-aggravated during that kick, that could have been a also possibility as well, because that tends to happen. That could have happened from even from his last fight appearance when he broke his leg. That could have carried over, and literally there's a mind to body connection, and the body will sometimes have those moments where it will remember an adrenaline point in its history and remember a feeling, and maybe like just remembering the worst will just lead to the worst happening, and the anticipation of that fight leading in with a swift right kick, that could have just really aggravated that whole injury, and also possibly could have been linked to just a mental blockage, for a lack of better words.
Well, to see what happened specifically, the conspiracy theory behind this is McGregor was hurt before the fight because it was advertised to such a degree, and because everything was put together ahead of time, and because, let's face it, so much money was on the line. The conspiracy theory is McGregor was hurt before the fight. Multiple people knew about it, yet the fight went on. And at that point, whether the fight goes on 5 rounds, 45 seconds, it doesn't matter. You collect the check either or. The fight happened for those 45 seconds, or it was a minute 04, I believe, minute 05, something of that nature. The fight happened. That's it. Everybody collects their checks. And McGregor, he was injured or not, it doesn't really matter in the end. But I do piece together the entire timeline. And the first thing that came to mind when I saw the fight and how the fight ended was, first off, when he calls it off as fast as he did, I thought, ooh, he might have knew something was up here, like he's injured in some regard. But I was thinking, how did he know that during the fight to such a degree? Because we've seen guys literally with half their
Well,
face ripped
Holloway
off,
was
and the
calling
ref's
it
still
up.
like, I don't know.
Holloway was the one calling it. He was like, I'm not going after this guy. Look at him. Look at him. That was literally going out of Max Holloway's mouth after that kick happened. He was leaning in, about to take advantage of the slip, but he saw the pain that McGregor was in and realized that he basically threw up the X and
And
was like,
there's two ways to look at that, because on one hand, I see a world where I go, okay, clearly something was wrong with him, because the first kick he falls down, I'm thinking, okay, that was a mistake. He slips, falls down. That's it. Like, you know, the guys do that. Fighters do that every once in a while, where they fall down accidentally and then they get
slips on some
themselves.
blood. Who knows?
Exactly. And they get themselves in a situation they don't want to be in, but it's not because of injury or because of anything else other than just a mistake. And that's how, and because he came out so aggressively, it's like, yeah, you're prone to mistakes in that moment. But there were two other occasions where he fell down. And one of those occasions, they slowed it down after the fight. And you can see he puts all of his weight onto his right leg. He had his weight shifted to that left leg. And of course, he blew out his right knee. He has all of his weight shifted to his left leg. And he goes to throw a punch. All of his weight goes onto his right leg. And at that point, his right leg just collapsed. Like you could see it on the replay, just gives way and he falls straight to the mat. And at that point, you knew, okay, well, something was wrong. But I still question, you've seen fighters in the past where they are beyond a point where you feel like the fight should be over and they just keep going. And that's more of a just complete, bludgeoning of the face, one would say, like, oh,
Right.
this fighter can't see, or this fighter, like, he literally doesn't know
Fighters
where he's
rarely
at right now.
go
He can't stand
continue
up,
going
right?
on a leg injury or even an arm injury. If something happens to a ligament, that's usually a media call for a call off. But let's say when Tom Aspinall got poked in the eye, he wanted to continue fighting even though he couldn't even see. But
That's where I question, like, how did Holloway and the referee specifically, which I apologize, I'm forgetting his name. I know his face, the big beard, the big guy. I mean, he's very, very noticeable man. But how did they know that was that serious? Because at that point, like, yeah, McGregor's limping around, but it didn't feel like when the fight ended, there was a shock that went over the crowd because everybody was going, or almost a confusion and a shock because everybody's going, I didn't see anything. Like, yeah, he limped, but something was off. But it's like I didn't see anything yet. Those two saw enough to the point where it was over. Like I just that's what I questioned just a little bit about.
vocalization, I think that's what it's coming down to. They're 3 feet away from each other. I think that Connor either screamed out in pain when he tried to stand on that leg and visibly fell and probably called something out. Maybe trainers were watching that and maybe not throwing in the towel, but verbally throwing in the towel in some sort. But I think just watching him, who knows? I think maybe he knew that injury existed and he just wanted to get into the ring to get that payday just to get down to it. But because he knew if he canceled, that would probably lead to that leads to him not being paid. That he didn't
And also
fulfill his contract.
reputation, right? Like kind of
Yeah, also,
reputation, like, oh, come on, what, like, oh, you're
but
hurt. Oh,
who knows? As it seems right now, it appears that we're probably going to be getting McGregor Holloway 3, which he made the quote and he went out and made the statement that he is planning on making his return after recovering from this injury. But as as you keep on getting older and older, the body isn't getting much better at recovering. And especially from another injury like that, who knows? But I'm wishing for that full recovery because I was hoping my dream vision was for that fight to get to the final round and Max Holloway to point at the middle of the ring and for that fight to end up going to split decision. But that was what I was hoping for, and unfortunately, we only got one kick.
Well, I mean, the fight in general was not even a fight. I mean, it was basically, oh, McGregor blows his knee out on the first kick, and that's what adds to the conspiracy theory here, along with what you said about, were the personal trainers. Did everyone kind of understand something was going on? Because I think of it too, like, oh yeah, he blew out his knee on the first kick, but could there have been something beforehand? Say Tyrese Halliburton, for example, with the Pacers back in the 2025 NBA Finals, he had a calf strain going into Game 6. Like, he was questionable for Game 6, and it's like, okay, Tyrese has a calf strain, and then eventually in Game 7 he tears his Achilles, and that's usually the onset of what happens with people who tear their Achilles. Is that, there might be a little bit of calf tightness or even calf soreness before they actually tear their Achilles. Sometimes it just happens out of nowhere, but for others, like, yes, that is a signal before it actually happens. And I wonder if that was the same with McGregor, because there's the muscle above the knee there. We've seen NBA players injure that muscle, most notably, and even tear that ligament, the quadriceps tendon right there in Victor Oladipo. And if any of that area is aggravated, it's like your knee is definitely going to be vulnerable to more and more injuries. And I do look at the timeline of the fight, and I try to piece together some of the footage in the locker room. You mentioned he wasn't moving around a ton, but the moves in which he did make in the locker room didn't indicate an injury. Like, he was doing them pretty hard, pretty firmly, and he was putting some weight onto that right leg, and you're thinking, okay, well, in the ring, he couldn't put any weight onto that leg at all. Yet behind the scenes, he was clearly on video, on social media. Everybody can see it, putting weight onto that right leg. You see that film, but then when he's taking his shoes off, there's definitely some limp there. But again, I look at that two ways. There might be a coincidence in there where takes his shoes off, and everybody takes their shoes off at night, and sometimes you trip and stumble over yourself when you're taking off your shoes, especially in a big moment like that. Now it's Conor McGregor, a little, not someone to be nervous, but that is another aspect of this fight. He looked a little nervous going in. It didn't look like he was his typical cocky Conor
Mind
McGregor
the
self. It's
body.
like, did he expect something of that nature to happen when he went into the ring? And that's why he wasn't so outward when he came out to the ring. But there's that shoe thing where, he could have stumbled, could have been a coincidence, but there's also the other side of it. He did put his weight onto his left leg, and he stumbled onto his left leg, but almost has to say, oh, my right leg's
Wilson
injured, and
Railroads
I just tweaked it by
is
shaking
putting
off my
on.
shoe here. And then, you just have everything that happens inside the ring, of course. But before the ring, it's like there's some mixed signals about what could have potentially happened there. But, the conspiracy theory comes out right away. Is Conor McGregor hurt, or was he pre-injured? That was the huge thing. Was Conor McGregor pre-injured? What would you bet on that? Would that straight yes or no on he was pre-injured coming
I'm
into the
saying
fight?
it's a mix of both worlds. I think that it was definitely a injury that exists prior and was something that was known about heading into the fight. Might have been even the broken leg that he suffered. Ooh, and my battery is on low. You might want to plug in your laptop. I surely do. But it might have been a pre-existing injury and something that could have been lingering leading into the fight and might have just been completely re-aggravated the nerves, the tension, the mind to body connection that he goes through, especially a fighter. That could have all led to it, and hopefully we see a full recovery to a point where he can even get back into a ring and complete even what could be a final match. Or because I was hoping that with this return that this would lead to a sporadic return. We would finally get that Michael Chandler fight, and one of my fantasy bookings would have been a McGregor versus Pimblett at the end of his to retire him or go at the end of his career. I think that would have been, there were a few marquee matchups that might be off the table now, but we'll have to see how this recovery goes and to even see what the full diagnosis is of what happened to him.
Yeah, we don't even really know what happened to his knee fully. If there was a complete ligament tear, a muscle tear, we don't really know at all. But what, and I think about this too, like there won't be a high volume of fights left for McGregor as Franco, he's dipping off camera and dealing with his computer over here. Or his fan, we don't know. I'm assuming it's his computer, but it's definitely not a cat this time. It's not a cat. No, there's no cats. There are no cats in the equation.
Maybe. Who knows?
Well, not tonight. Not tonight here. But back on McGregor, there's not going to be a high volume of fights left in his career. There's not going to be card after card after card. But do I think he's going to come back and fight? No doubt. I mean, there was some question like, could this be his last fight? Conor McGregor is not letting that be his last hoorah inside of the octagon. That would just be absolutely preposterous for the type of person and fighter he's been his entire career. Of course, outside of the ring and in the ring as well. He's been one of the most electric fighters we've ever seen. And if you think about it, I mean, has there ever been a more popular fighter out there in terms of UFC? I don't think so. And to go out like that no, that's not going to happen. It just will not happen. And if he has to fight somebody that is, because I see things too, like look at, Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. That's not a real boxing match, in my opinion. Like, yes, it's real, but it's like not. There's like an act like this. It's not what people will. It's not what people will put on Mike Tyson's resume. Like, oh, you lost to Jake Paul or beat Jake Paul or whoever, right? But ultimately, it's like there will be a lot of opportunities for Conor McGregor to fight again, and he'll probably even get into the boxing ring again. Right. If there's money to be made in there, he'll probably get into the boxing ring. But in terms of like actual UFC fights where guys are just kicking the ish out of each other, I do expect Conor to fight a couple more times, and he's not going to go out in a manner where, oh, he just blew his knee out and he lasted 1 minute in round one and that's it. It's like, this is Conor McGregor, folks. Unless he's matured and found some kind of other, unless he went Supreme Bay on us, unless he's gone Supreme Bay on us, Chris Douglas Roberts. If anybody remembers that story, I guarantee you that the three folks on here probably don't know about this NBA story, but Chris Douglas Roberts, he's like, I don't want to be a basketball player anymore. I'm Supreme Bay. I'm a skateboarder. I'm this, I'm that. Unless Conor McGregor's on that route, he's coming back and he's fighting. That's just what I see. Also, Wilson Contreras up in the home run derby right now, former Cardinal and now Red Sox. So a little cross-broadcast relation with Wilson Contreras here.
Yeah.
And he has 13 home runs. He has one swing left.
13 home runs to start off with. 13 for 20. I'm liking this new format that's not on a time span. It's all swings.
Swing based. Well, I saw Jeff Passan talking about it on Twitter, and he, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't like it. He wasn't a fan of it. And I didn't really look too intricately at the new format, but for me, here's why I'm like, just when I'm right before I'm watching it, or the day of, or when we're watching it, it's like, that's what I need to know, because otherwise memorizing these formats, you just can't. They change every single year. And that's what I kind of think about when it comes to the home run derby, is not every home run derby is really made the same. If you really think about it throughout the years, it's like the rules change, what you really have to do changes, and I feel like some of the rules favor different batters depending on whether it's time-based or swing-based, because that definitely, if you like base it on that, it becomes like swing efficiency, or whether one can actually swing the bat time and time again for, say, 5 minutes or whatever it was in the past. It was probably like 3 minutes, I want to say, guys used to have to hit home runs. But the home run derby going on right now behind us. And Wilson Contreras, I was a little surprised to see him in
He was
this
a
field of players this year because, I mean, for the Cardinals,
he was snubbed. He was snubbed at first, and up next to bat will be St. Louis player Jordan Walker.
Tiny's saved his
Tiny.
career, by the way. I'm just shout out to Tiny's right now because without those tequila shots, Jordan Walker probably isn't where he's at today. Literally. Like he might not be on the field in Philadelphia right now if he did not walk into Tiny's Bar in Columbia, Illinois. Back when it was the Pub and Grill. Now it's the Gastro Pub, folks. It's the Gastro. It's Tiny's Gastro Pub. But back when it was the Pub and Grill, walks in there on that fateful, cold December 14th night, and I'm just saying, the man, his career trajectory could have changed that day. We were already talking about conspiracy theories on here when it comes to Conor McGregor. That's my next one. I'm just saying. But outside of Jordan Walker, who is they're still showing. You might be a little bit ahead of me here. I'm still on Wilson Contreras. I'm still in 2024 Cardinals land with Wilson Contreras out here. We need to move on to Jordan Walker here in 2026. I love the jerseys. I got to say the America 250 jerseys with the American flag numbers. Very very aesthetic. You know, I like when there's some uniqueness to the MLB All-Star events, whether it's the game or, of course, the actual home run derby. Man, Jordan Walker going out there with a backwards cap. I don't know if it's an All-Star cap, Cardinals cap, batting practice. I'm not really sure.
Starting
But here comes
starting off 3 for 4.
Georgian native, and of course, current St. Louis Cardinal, Tiny's legend, Jordan Walker, in the home run derby. Congratulations, Jay Walk. But who I'm not saying congratulations to right now is the rest of our great American citizens for that ball is deep and that's gone. Okay. The rest of our American citizens out there who love American soccer because, unfortunately, since the last time we recorded, Team USA, our soccer team, of course, our football club, whatever you want to call them, eliminated from the World Cup in embarrassing fashion against Belgium out in Seattle, 4-1. And you know what, Franco? For as great of a World Cup as the U.S. had, I would say, I mean, the first 2 games were great. 4-1 against Paraguay, 2-0 against Australia, looked dominant. Lost to Turkey, and then beat Bosnia, of course, 2-0. And they lost to Turkey in a circumstantial game where the result didn't matter. So I'm not necessarily looking at that one. But 2014, the Americans come out in the round of 16 and take Belgium to extra time. And back in 2014, that's a better Belgium team. Take them to extra time. Of course, they unfortunately lost 2-1 that match. But now you fast forward 12 years later, and the narrative has been American soccer should be getting better, right? More soccer awareness out there, more athletes, higher volume of athletes who are available. Let's just face it, in America. And yet, here we are, round of 16 against Belgium. Yet, does it go to extra time? No. It's a 4-1 bludgeoning. And the way in which the Americans go out may have been the most embarrassing way outside of maybe Germany, who lost to Paraguay. I mean, I don't think there was a more embarrassing way to go out of the World Cup in terms of relative expectations. The Americans, I would say overall, had a pretty good World Cup. Definitely went above and beyond expectations of what people thought the Americans could do at the 26th World Cup as hosts. But to end the World Cup with a 4-1 massacre against the same team who knocked you out 12 years ago in the same spot, it made me throw my hands up, like, because part of me is thinking, if we can get past Belgium, this is a legitimate stepping stone in American soccer history. We're going to go on to face Spain. We're going to go to the quarterfinals. quarterfinals against Spain. That's not a little step. Like when I see Norway out there, I'm like, man, congrats to Norway. Like they're
Right.
actually outplaying England in the quarterfinals to go to the semifinals of the World Cup. And you start dreaming about things that say happened to Croatia in 2018, where you're like, whoa, Croatia made the World Cup final. Like, maybe the United States could be that team one day and actually win the whole thing. Who knows? With all the great athletes we have. Yet the quarterfinals don't happen. The United States doesn't face Spain. They lose 4-1 to Belgium and don't even look close to their level. And it's a worse Belgium team. They've exited their golden generation. This is not the Belgium of old. It just made me throw my hands up and it made me go, are we just ever going to do this? Are the Americans ever going to win a World Cup? Are we ever going to do this?
Well, what we were looking for when we were going over the preview brackets and saying if there was any hope for USA to make a push for even reaching the round of 16, it was looking for those holes and looking for that path that to be created with weaker opponents, and the cards really just didn't fall for the US. And I know what the US has to do is just take one of our tight end prospects and just put a soccer ball in front of them.
That's the issue here is America's Erling Haaland is playing for the Buffalo Bills. Just is. It's like all of our best athletes, and that is the fundamental problem with American soccer is all of America's best athletes, they're picking football first, basketball second, baseball third, hockey fourth, and then they're considering soccer.
Maybe
And even out
lacrosse.
there, thank you. Exactly. I was going, they're even considering lacrosse at that point. If you're going all the way
Lacrosse.
down to soccer, it's like, yeah, maybe lacrosse. And you just look at all the fantastic athletes out there on American soil. Think of Lamar Jackson, Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, all these great athletes, LeBron James over the last 20 years. If any of these guys would have played soccer, Josh Allen, just mentioned him, if any of these guys would have played soccer, it's like you'd have to think the Americans would just be whooping butt out there. Yet they're just not. It's like they're a middle of the pack, and I hate to say middle of the pack because in relative
Jordan
terms to the FIFA
Walker on
rankings,
his
at
last
least
hit.
America's somewhere closer to the top than where they've been in past history. And sometimes you look at it, it's like it's more catastrophized than it really is for America. But I just this World Cup experience, because this felt like the run where the cards actually were in favor of the United States. Now, if they were to reach the quarterfinal against Spain, that's a whole different, that's a whole different ballpark. When you're facing Spain, France, Argentina, England, any of these teams in the semifinals, that's a whole different ballpark for the United States. But you're thinking if they can at least get to the quarterfinal and get to a game where they're playing one of these teams and actually own a chance on the same pitch as them, you're thinking maybe we're moving on up. Like maybe there's going to be more awareness for soccer and maybe more athletes do choose soccer in history, in time moving forward. Yet I just felt like the 4-1 bludgeoning to Belgium. I'm like, we were here 12 years ago in Brazil, and yet 12 years later, same spot. And it feels like our team's worse. Belgium's worse. And it just, this was a letdown. It's like we couldn't get past Belgium, who couldn't get past Spain. It's like we can't even get to that tier below where the top tier is.
And one know it's a direct correlation to the claim that all of the U.S. men are playing other sports. Look at the U.S. women's teams. They have been dominating over the past, and they're worlds above even looking at the U.S. Women's League. The league that started up a few years back and is starting to prosper, and you're starting to see some real talent starting to emerge from that league, and there are household names within women's soccer now, and you're starting to see them really just to dominate that force. But when you look at women's sports, they're not diverting away to football. They're not diverting away. Some might be diverting away to basketball, but women's soccer is a U.S. dominated sport. And if you go around the high schools and really other youth sports, women and girls are playing soccer, volleyball, and basketball, and softball as well, but and multiple other sports. But there is a lot more of a focus on it, and you're seeing women and girls growing up inspired to be playing like a with these women soccer players that have revolutionized the game. Megan Rapinoe or I'm blanking on
Abby Wambach, Carly
yeah,
Lloyd,
Carly Lloyd.
Hope Solo. You got absolute stars in the women's. Alex Morgan. How could we? I mean, that I'm kind of naming the 2015 World Cup team right now. But I mean, that is the catalyst. Like those
Right.
women back in the mid 2010s, late 2000s, like were the
and
catalyst to
and the
now.
girls our age grew up watching them just like we did.
Yeah, and I look at that, and you look at the women's side of things versus the men's. I think football is the biggest robber of, or criminal, whatever you want to call it, the biggest stealer of, the biggest thief. There we go.
Yeah.
I was like, can we find a better word for that? The biggest thief of our best soccer players, because in the women's game, you don't have women playing American football. You just don't. Yet you look at the men's side of things, they're playing football out here, and I would say those are probably our best soccer players. They jump the highest, they run the fastest, their footwork's the best, they're the most physical. Yes, of course, you could say NBA players as well, but the football guys, like what they're demanded of physically out there on a, let's face it too, grass plane, they're the biggest. They're the biggest pool of players in America that I feel as if these guys played soccer, America would be no doubt dominating the soccer landscape or the football landscape, of course, for those out there at the World Cup time and time again. Or even, actually look at it. America, I want to say they're like seventh in most international trophies won, yet they're all international trophies where they're facing like Curacao and Jamaica and like they're playing North America, like the Gold Cup. They have like they have a million Gold Cups along with Mexico, and Mexico's another team in this equation too. Where I go, are they ever going to just do it? Are they going to do it? Are they going to make it past the fifth game? And guess what? This World Cup, this is where I'm a little like, okay, Mexico. The narrative has always been they have to get past the fifth game. They haven't been past the fifth game in what, the last 4 or 5 World Cups, which would be in history the round of 16. Now this year, of course, with more teams added, and people don't realize this particular World Cup basically turned into March Madness, because originally at the World Cup you had 32 teams play throughout the group stage, and then it was whittled down to 16 for the knockout stage. So you had the group stage, eliminate 16 teams, and then you went into the knockout stage with 16 teams. Now the World Cup at 48 teams, there's a round of 32. So you have 16 teams eliminated in the group stage, or rather, 48? We had 48 teams, right? So yeah, 16 teams eliminated in the group stage, and then you were left with a 32 team bracket, which was originally beforehand the entire tournament. Now the entire tournament of 32 teams was fit into one bracket of a single elimination nature. So you basically had this weird March Madness thing going on at the World Cup this year. Just wanted to point that out. But that's where I look at Mexico and go, okay, people said, okay, they're trying to get past their fifth game. Well, yeah, they did this year because, hello, there's an extra game. You had 3 group stage games. They got past the round of 32 game they played, which was Ecuador. Electric game, by the way, absolutely electric. And that fifth game was the round of 16 game. And people went, oh, they finally got to the fifth game. They're still in the round of 16. They couldn't make it past the round of 16 before this particular World Cup. They still couldn't make it past the round of 16 as they lost to England, which was just an electric game all around. And I picked Mexico in that game. I picked them before when we did all the predictions and whatnot. And I really thought Mexico, like, this could be their chance as hosts in front of their home fan base. Their path was not easy. I'll give it to them there at Ecuador. It would have been Ecuador, England, then Norway, not or even Brazil in that instance, and then Argentina potentially. Would not have been an easy path for Mexico, but I felt like, okay, could this be the team? And they were a team that performed extremely well in the group stage. Yet they get to England, and in that instance, England scores 2 goals. Jude Bellingham, just absolutely incredible player. Who?
Jack Caglioni finishes with 8.
How many home runs did Jordan Walker have, by the way?
13. Contreras and
Wilson
Walker tied
Contreras
for
and Jordan Walker,
13.
13 apiece. Nice.
So I believe, if I am remembering correct on my overview of the rules, I think that they can have two people hit more than 13 home runs, and they'll still be safe in advancing. But I think it's 4 each round.
What I think Netflix could improve on here is maybe adding a scoreboard for each home run hitter. Right now,
Yeah,
it's just like you see the players. So whoever's up, you see their number, but then you don't see anyone else's, and you're kind of like left wondering what's going on in the competition. Like there's a lack of context in competition on the screen. You're just left to be like, all right, we're just watching home runs and the numbers going up and up and up. So I had a little tweak to the broadcast there. But in terms of Mexico, they're another team alongside the United States where I go, are they ever going to do it? Are they ever, it's starting to become this thing where it's the haves and the have-nots, like all these European teams out there, and there's like advanced systems of development versus, teams
right.
like Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, who might not have those same developmental systems just in terms of like what they have for leagues out there, right? You think of all the big leagues and all the big money that goes in over Europe versus South America and North America, and I just go like, are these teams doomed in the future? Like Mexico, I mean, the United States, they're doomed from a personnel perspective, but then Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, teams like that, I'm like, are they doomed because they're just like it used to, like it the game used to be European talent, South American talent. It's like it was like this, and you thought like, whoa, you had hidden talent in South America. Now it's like Europe just extracts all the South American players, and then all of a sudden it's like you don't have the same base of players in South America as you once had playing domestically in those leagues. And of course, just let's face it, having kids in those countries to the point where, oh yeah, you have a pool of players who you can ultimately develop and pick from. It's like now all those families are flocking over to Europe in a certain sense. Now that's not the whole equation in all of this, but you kind of do see a shifting landscape of how each country's developed from a football perspective, affecting who's actually performing at the World Cup. Like Argentina's doing well right now, but I would say, once Leo Messi's out the door,
Hey,
what do they got? It's like
well,
I don't feel like
want
Argentina's
to
that
what?
tough of a
There's
team here.
more. There, the thing that South America has is there are now kids and current players who are on the roster with Lionel Messi who grew up inspiring to be Lionel Messi. There is not too many kids inspired to become the next Landon Donovan in the United States. Like it's if you look in South
Or
America,
Christian Pulisic, like Christian
yeah,
Pulisic is getting dragged right now.
right. If
Like
and
I like on the thumbnail, I'm like, I want to put him a little bit smaller because I don't want him to be the basis of US failure because I think it's a little unfair. Like, hello, folks, there's 11 other guys out here or 10 other guys out here, 11 in total, and we're all going to put it on Pulisic's shoulders to be way better. It's like, I'm sorry, Pulisic didn't baff a kick like malfunction of goal kick when there were vultures in the area. Did Pulisic do that? It's like no, no. I'm sorry. I believe that was the goaltender. So, I think it's a little unfair that it's put on his shoulders. But you're right in terms of the faces. It's like Neymar's. We still remember Neymar, and kids younger than us still remember Neymar, of course. And he's still technically out there, but he's not as not as involved as he once was with Brazil. But yeah, like the faces that appear in those countries versus the United States. yeah, it's a little rough. I gotta say, it's a little rough. What's also a little rough is NBA Summer League play, which, summer Celtics, I would say, just adding on to some conversation here at the end is, I feel like the summer Celtics have been all right. I think, the 2-0 is great, but, today's game against the Hawks, maybe not so great. Turnovers haven't been amazing, but you'd expect that for summer league. But I would say overall positive returns.
Yeah, I mean, looking overall, Dylan Mitchell, that is been the real standout for the Boston Celtics and has been standing out as the second round steal. And also Chris Sinak, obviously struggling tonight as the Celtics were mollywopped by the Atlanta Hawks. I would have to rewatch the stats because I wasn't prepared for the doubleheader. But the Atlanta Hawks, led by Kingston Fleming and a few other talented youth depth pieces. I think that looking at Sinak and Dylan Mitchell and following up with our conversations about Dylan Mitchell Robinson and Mike Conley and Jalen or Paul George, which for all you watching, tune into that once we edit that together. Do we release that?
No, we still technically have to film. I mean, I will say, like, what the conversation we're having right now was technically maybe supposed to be on the end of that, but I was like, well, we do have some time to fill here. Might as well just throw it onto this one because we're already live.
Right. I might have broken fourth wall right there. But yeah, well, we have some conversations with Mike Conley and the additions to the roster coming up very soon. But Sinak and Mitchell are going to be, I believe, key contributors to this roster. When it comes down to the rotation, sure, it'll take some time for them to end up developing into the players that we are hoping them to be. And there's really some room for them to improve, potentially even start off in Maine and develop their skills. But looking at their play and really around the NBA, this is looking like one of the more talented summer league draft pools, draft talents that we've seen come into the league in a long time, especially off a first 3-game debut and from what we've seen so far.
Honestly, I feel like the 2025 NBA draft coming in,
hits 10 home runs. Walker and Contreras still tied for first.
Cardinals. I mean, they had something going there for. I mean, I don't know if it was a transferring of power because, when Contreras is there, Jordan Walker, not exactly the best hitter in the world, but here we are now, where he's in the home run derby. But what were we just talking about? We were talking about summer league here. So, summer league. I really wish that. So in 2025, came into the draft broadcast ultra prepared, like just cramming in. Like that was the primary focus. Now this year, so many things going on. World Cup, just crazy. Jaylen Brown saga, Giannis saga. Like it felt like last summer's like we had time to just go boom into the draft.
We were
this year it's like
Celtics. Now we're forever green, evergreen content, every sport, everything that is going around and on in the sports world. We are trying to be there to cover it for you.
But that's the thing is like the Celtics though, last summer, like busy summer, Porzingis, Holiday, but those were pretty easily explainable moves. Like, they made salary dumps, and this is why, like, there's no other like drama attached to it other than just like, all right, the Celtics are not going to be as good next year with Tatum out of the lineup, and we're salary dumping Drew, KP, we're letting Kornet walk, Horford walk, all these guys. This summer is like, we're going for Giannis, Brown's in the deal, and now he's disgruntled. Oh, we're not trading him. Oh, wait, he's going to Philly. Like, you have all this like craziness of rumors come out. And it felt like the draft was like this second kind of like, all right, well, we'll get, we got to get to the draft too. Like, let's get through the draft. And I would say like our study of the top prospects was, there, but in terms of the depth of the draft, it's like I felt like it's like this could have been a really legendary draft, but it really does. It highlight that statement is highlighted within the top four specifically because I'll make a guarantee right now that we can come back on next summer at this time in July. I am guaranteeing that none of the top four picks from the 2026 NBA draft will be playing at 2027 Summer League. None of them. It's just, I don't see it. All four of them, I think they're going to have phenomenal rookie years. I think they're going to make true impacts on their teams right away. And there's going to be no reason as to why any of us need to see them play EuroLeague guys and G League guys at Summer League in Vegas in 27. I don't see it happening. And, that's maybe not a crazy take, but I really do see this top four right now. All of them have been at one point or the other the best player on the floor for both teams, if not, of course, their own team, when, of course, they're playing each other, that is. Cam Boozer, I would say, is impressed me the least, but it's not because he's been bad at all. It's just because he's just a steady shooter. I mean, not in terms of actual, shot percentage, but just a steady guy. I mean, he's going to be the guy who's just like, oh, he got you 23 and 13 and did it on an 8 of 10 line. And, there wasn't much flash, but he was the most efficient, best player in the entire game. That's the type of player Cam Boozer is going to be in the NBA. Yet others, we see Darren Peterson. He's already drawing comparisons to Kobe out there, which, of course, the mentality, mama mentality. Let's slow up on that a little bit. Kobe was a different animal, let's face it. But then AJ DeBonsa, his first game, just a clear slasher, downhill attacker. I think he's going to be dominant in that regard early on in his NBA career. And I can just see him at 26, 27, 28. There are not going to be many guys who can stop him going downhill. Now, his jump shot, I would say, needs to improve a little bit, but I like the upside in his game entirely. And then Caleb Wilson, 7 of 11 from 3 in his first game as a Chicago Bull at Summer League. And folks, he made 7 threes his entire UNC career, which was, of course, only one season, but one college season passed. Caleb Wilson made 7 threes, and that was primarily the reason I was concerned with Caleb Wilson going into the draft, going, okay, he doesn't seem to have much of a jump shot here. Like, yeah, the mechanics look okay, but how many of these is he actually going to take in time? What is his actual ability? He shot 25% from 3 on low volume, of course, in college. What's the upside to him as a shooter? I really question that. If you're going to draft a guy in the top 4, it's like, do you really want to question his jump shot? AJ DeBonsa, number 1, he did like a jump shot. Those two guys, Caleb Wilson and DeBonsa, but 7 of 11 from 3. Are you kidding me? From Caleb Wilson. And to me, the shot looked great. It's like, I can see that translating over to NBA ball. I can. And that makes me believe, wow, all 4 of these prospects, all 4 the best player on the floor at any given time for either their team or just both teams on the floor, depending on whether or not they're playing each other. This is going to be a legendary class, at least the top 4. There could be even more guys. Not impressed with A-Cup so far. You can see the inefficiencies, like all the concerns, like high volume guy, not very efficient shooter
Will be good for the
just
Kings.
not too much of a defender.
I think that will bode well for the Kings, for his own personal stats, but I think what he's going to be seeing moving forward is just going to be really what we've seen with the undersized guard, what's been happening to undersized guards, and their value just completely diminishing once their scoring ability starts to see the slightest descent. Hence, Cam Thomas or even players of that ascent, Cole Anthony, another one that comes to mind. But these guys are looking at the top 4. I'm looking at what they're going to be able to contribute to their teams. I think the Wizards might be the team that looks the most complete from a full lineup standpoint. However, there's a lot of questions, and if you're not questioning that starting lineup outside of the great foundation they have in young talent, but having your other cornerstone players being Trae Young and Anthony Davis does bode questions of loyalty and all.
I think it's DeBonsa. Like, sometimes I think it's good to have good players and, have that be the foundation for your real, like, say when the Celtics, they have Hayward and Kemba Walker, like those are two all-stars, but to me it's like they're kind of supporting the real foundation of, like, I don't know how you would, it's almost like something you'd put around. See, there's actual terminology for this, but you know how, like, you build something in concrete and you put something
The
around it to, it's not
foundation.
scaffolding, but you know what I'm talking, like, where it's
Right.
like, okay, we're building this up, but we got to put this around it to kind of help it grow. It's like that's what Kimba and Hayward were, and that's what I feel like Trey Young and Anthony Davis will be to Debonsa and Koulibaly, and who else do the Wizards have? I'm totally blanking
Trey
on them.
Johnson,
Oh, Alex Sarr, Trey Johnson, of
Alex
course.
Starr. Right.
Oh, I love
All,
Alex Sarr. I'm sorry. He's going to be like, for me in a couple years, I'm going to be like, come on, guys, I told you about this guy.
right.
2024, it's like, I think he might be an all-star one day, and people are like, 2024 draft was just awful, and Risa Shea at the top, and who really wanted Sarr? And I'm like,
Risa Shea shouldn't
I
have.
don't think Sarr's going to be Wimby, but I think he's going to be like a pretty
I,
good player in the league.
I'll hold the
I
claim
think he'd be a
that
fringe all-star. Like, oh, well, he made the all-star team like, 2 or 3 seasons.
Alex Starr probably. Well, at this point, it's made up for itself. But at that time, I thought it just made no sense that he didn't want to work out for the Atlanta Hawks at that. And
Maybe
like,
like their big situation,
well,
Okongwu, Capella at the
Well,
time.
even
I
then,
don't.
that's still a good room, and that would be a good mix of players to work around. And also, he would be lining up. It was more the wing depth that was more the problem, but he would have went in and had a great starting lineup and would have been partnered more for immediate success. However, he wanted to go to a team that he was the franchise player, but guess what? Lo and behold, he's still playing with Trey Young right after that.
Regardless,
Yeah.
there was another, what, Trey Young, where I saw earlier today. This has nothing to do with Trey Young, but like Colin Sexton keeps following LeBron around. Like he gets to Cleveland and LeBron leaves. He gets to LA, LeBron leaves. Like kind of the Shabazz Napier. I remember Shabazz Napier drafted and in 2014, coming out straight out of UConn with a natty with the net around his neck. Of course, the championship net, folks. My lord. Okay, like, let's get this straight. Let's clarify this. And LeBron leaves, and we're like, wow, it's Shabazz and LeBron leaves, of course. Um, but what do we got here? Ben Rice up.
Ben
Ben
Rice,
Rice, an all-star
the
starter this year, nonetheless.
the shame of Massachusetts.
Not taking advantage of the Yankees lifting
I
their
believe he's
beard and
from
mustache policy.
what I know he's from the South Shore, Situate, if I'm not
Ben
mistaken.
Rice?
Yeah, I know he's from the South Shore. I know, and Schlittler is
No, this
also
is one of
from
those names. I'm sorry, as a Midwesterner, I'm not going to be able to do.
which one?
To me, it looks like Cohasset.
Cohasset? Yeah, that's basically Situate. Yeah,
Cohasset.
those two towns are right next
Whoa,
to
we
each
got
other.
Minot Beach. Is that a thing?
I would
Minot
have to
Beach?
ask. I would have to ask my cousins up there.
Where is
Cohasset, Situate's about 30 minutes right under Boston. It would
where
be. It is basically the if you would like to live in the suburbs while maintaining a semi bearable commute to Boston on a daily basis, that would be the ideal area to live. But I believe he has been shamed. Usually, when a baseball player comes into a bar, as you know, they're offered some free drinks. I think everyone in Massachusetts knows, and if they see Ben Rice at a bar, they ask for the bartender to put it on his tab.
also with Schlittler too, right?
Yeah, both of them.
Schlittler's even worse because
Yeah, make
of
them
the
pay
wild
double,
card
make them pay
situation
for the
last year.
entire bar if they try to step foot in here. It was fun and games when they were before the Red Sox lost to them in the wild card last year, and they were proud of it. So now, unfortunately, if you see them come back to your hometown, make sure you get your drinks paid for by them.
By Ben Rice and Cam Schlittler,
Yes,
the
put it on their
traitors.
tab.
The traitors. I mean, I couldn't imagine playing for the Cubs. I really couldn't. As a St. Louis native, I mean, I just see that's what I always try to compartmentalize, like, because from far away, you sometimes see rivalries as like, oh, this is fun. But then when you actually compartmentalize a certain rivalry, like Red Sox, Yankees, it's like I see it in Cubs, Cardinals, or Blues, Blackhawks, where there is no
You only
piece
hit
of
7
me
home
there.
runs.
I won't even make a bet to where it's like, oh, I'll wear a Cubs or Blackhawks jersey if this happens. I won't even make a bet in that regard that
No,
puts me in a position to where I would have to wear either one of those nasty things. I just really wouldn't. Lakers, Sixers, like I what's funny is I have all their gear in some regard because I just collect sports gear. So I have gear. Like I respect the franchise in terms of a memorabilia perspective, but in terms of repping them in any way, I mean, it would be
I
hard.
don't
Like
own a 400 jersey.
I own foreign jerseys. I mean, I own like there are so many teams that like if I'm looking literally in the distance right now at what I'm looking at, like some hats here and I got some jersey. It's like, yeah, I got a lot of random stuff. I mean, I like a couple weeks ago I was trying to hang up my Frank Mason Kings jersey that I randomly found in a Idaho Springs, Colorado thrift store. Shout out to that thrift store. And you know what? I used a Cubs hat. What's funny enough is when I was in Denver and it was in Colorado in general. So Illinois licenses, I don't think at this point in time I had my license renewed yet. And when you're younger in Illinois, your license is vertical like this. But in Denver, they have a strict, and this is Denver area, Colorado. I don't know if it's just Colorado State or just Denver, but they have a strict no vertical ID policy. If you have a vertical ID, they're just not taking it. Doesn't matter if you're over 21, whatever. Because I went into certain places like, here's my ID, and they're like, sorry, you're from Illinois, you're of age, but just because you have a vertical ID, we are not taking you here. We're not serving you here, straight up. But with the vertical ID, there was a hat in this thrift store. It was a Cubs hat. My ID is from Illinois. I'm from St. Louis. Like I'm live in the St. Louis area, but I'm from Illinois. My ID's on the Illinois side. And that that ID, like, oh, it's vertical. They're not going to take it. I just brought around the Cubs hat everywhere. I did not wear it. I literally like had it by my side to basically convince people, like, yeah, I'm from Illinois. Like here, because that's the thing is people when you say you're from Illinois, like, oh, the Chicago, the Cubs, the Blackhawks, and it's like I absolutely effing hate those teams. Like I don't like to use the word hate at all, but if it's ever to be used, it's like should be used on your greatest sports rival, right?
Yeah.
Upstate. It's like I live in the same state as them, but my allegiance is to the city of St. Louis here. I'm literally 10 minutes away from where the Blues and Cardinals play here. So, but no, I mean that's kind of, Denver story randomly on how I acquired a piece of Cubs memorabilia just to get me into certain places to convince people like, yeah, this isn't a fake Illinois ID, vertical fake Illinois ID. I'm actually from Illinois. Like, please serve me here in Colorado. Like, and what's funny is I got back from that trip. I had my ID renewed like two weeks later. And again, I was younger at the time, but got the horizontal ID and went, well, this would have solved everything. This would have solved everything in Colorado. But as the home run derby keeps chugging along here, I still don't even know what the standings look like. But here comes Caminero from the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm another hometown. Like I feel like you ever know, like, you have your allegiances to certain teams, like, of course, hometown teams. There are other teams, like, okay, like, you kind of are like, all right, I have an affiliation there, so therefore I'm gonna, somewhat root for this squad. Like, that's how I see, like, the United States and Mexico in the World Cup. Like, I haven't been anywhere in the world outside of the United States except for Mexico.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, I've been to
Likewise,
Mexico, so
I've been to
I
Cancun.
I'll root for Mexico. Like, if they're doing well, it's like I've been there. Like, met great people there. Like, they're just
Cancun, Isla
amazing, amazing.
Mujeres. I don't blame the NBA players for. I wouldn't mind getting shipped out to Cancun in February.
Cancun specific. I mean, of course, NBA players in February are already
Well,
thinking about
NFL
Cancun. You've
players.
already know that.
NFL players get to go in
They get
February,
the February
January.
Cancun. But yeah, these guys. Yeah, why don't we say that for them more often? Like, oh, you get eliminated in January, y'all going to Cancun. Like, these NBA guys, they're not going to Cancun. They're going up to Lake Michigan. No, I
No,
highly
Cape
doubt it.
Cod.
I mean,
Cape
maybe
Cod.
who
I
who
mean,
takes a trip up to Lake Michigan? Maybe Luke Cornett, like the type of players who would go up there.
yeah.
Luke
Cape
Cornett.
Cod's hopping. Derek White has been spotted multiple times and on Cape Cod. If well, I'm not going to give out any free advertising, but well, you know what? Pizza Shark. If you guys want free advertising, reach out to me. You know, but yeah, he's got advertisements running. Pritchard, congratulations. With as I knew her, Emma McDonald, now Emma Pritchard, having a child
Oh, wow,
upcoming.
big stuff. I mean, big payday maybe coming too. So you never know.
Yeah, that should be in the books, and with the reallocation of salary contracts, Maya's Kata getting paid. I mean, it could be in the works.
You never know. You never know. But I will say, for the Celtics purposes, though, salary wise, it's like, yeah, Pritchard's on a really good deal. Like, you see on one perspective, it's like, oh man, really hope he gets paid in his life and enjoys his life. But he's already getting paid pretty good. But let's face it, he could be making a lot more
Hey,
as
$7
the
million
NBA player he
isn't
was.
a lot around Cape Cod
I
when you're
I
trying to
was
live
looking
in
at
Chatham.
somebody had earlier, like, his actual play is worth like $32 million in terms of an actual salary, and he's making like 7. It's
Yeah,
like, but I don't, like, part of me is like, man, you
that's
want
it.
guys to get paid, but you're like, hey man, not too much, because then you'll have to leave, and then we have to trade you like Jalen Brown, and like that to the to some extent, like Jalen Brown. I'm like, man, I'm really glad he makes 64 million, and he's paid in his life because he's put in the work to deserve that, and he does great things with his money. But man, if he made 50, he would still be in Boston. Like, that's just the painful reality of that. But another painful reality is we have reached the end of this live stream, of course, as the Home Run Derby continues on. We hit Conor McGregor, who unfortunately hit no one this weekend. Of course, the United States eliminated from the World Cup along with Mexico and many others. And as we dwindle it down to the semifinal and the final coming up, we'll have more content on the World Cup. And of course, maybe some more UFC in the future as more big fights approach
UFC,
us. What did I
NFL,
say? Did I say
NFL
USC?
maybe. We got to start spinning our tires on the NFL, and also tonight we introduced the MLB. Maybe heading
Little
out of All
baseball.
Star Weekend, we can get some thoughts out about our two teams, the Red Sox, the Cardinals, and beyond.
That'd be a perfect time to do that. Because, all right, let's pay attention to the
We're we're,
standings.
we're
Let's
doing we're
evaluate
doing
our teams at
production
All
work
Star
right in
break.
front of you guys.
Right. Also, like, let's face it, the trade deadline not right around the corner. We
I
have
know what.
Riley O'Brien
Comment
in
what
the
you
All
guys
Star
want us
game
to
right
talk about.
now, or tomorrow, who could be not a Cardinal in a couple months. Just saying. But
Yeah.
I'll have to cover that too. But as for our coverage tonight, that is going to bring us to the end of the show. Of course, folks, do not forget to like, subscribe, comment on all of our social medias, Instagram, YouTube, where you're watching here at Forever Green Sports. But that's going to do it for us here tonight, folks. Of course, I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, alongside Nick Franco. And as we always say, go Forever Green. I think Franco has a better saying, honestly.
Go green, but don't be gone forever.
Ciao.